The camera's too far away for me to see, so when it goes out of focus, I can't catch it because I can't even see myself. I don't know. Spooky Sunday dinners, spooky Sunday dinners, spooky Sunday dinners. I still can't afford a theme song. Sick. ¿Dónde está mi teléfono? Found there. I'm in a sweatpant today. Do you like it? I bought them. They don't fit, but they're comfy. Hey guys, for those of you that don't know, my name is Johnny Taylor, and this is Spooky Sunday Dinners, where every Sunday, every other Sunday, when I'm late Monday, Thursday, I don't know. We talk about a true crime case that I just really want to talk about while we make a fairly easy recipe. So, if true crime, cooking, and dark humor is your thing, you might want to hit that subscribe button below. All right, we're back. I took a week off. Life got a little busy and I wasn't used to that since like the whole world shut down for a year. So, my bad. But I hope you enjoyed Chris Benoit and beef stroganoff because I'm still on a high from that one, which is why this week I decided to do a heavy hitter, one that I know and love, could probably tell you the story without my notes, and I live like 5 minutes from where it happened. This week, we are talking about Robert Blake, otherwise known as the murder of Bonnie Lee Bakley. I know, y'all, I'm not even gonna say anything about it because I don't even need to. And this week, we are gonna be making the easiest appetizer, substitute for a charcuterie board, impress guests, date night, girl night thing ever, which I like to call Bloomin' Brie, baked brie in sourdough. It's so easy and always impresses your guests, so. We know who we're talking about. You probably already know this case. Let's get into ingredients. As usual, they will be listed in the description below. This is just so you don't get mad at me. A nice, good sourdough round, any size you want. I went for one a little bit smaller, so it doesn't really matter. Any brie you can find at the store. I know this is expensive, so get you some Great Value brand brie. Mozzarella cheese. We're gonna use this both under and on top of the brie to add a little kick. About 2 cloves of garlic. So this original recipe actually calls for garlic powder, but I'm all about the fresh garlic, so do what you want. And finally, just some olive oil and Italian seasoning. Now, this recipe is, you gotta trust me on this one. It's gonna look weird, it's gonna be weird, but it's very like, fancy. California. LA. Not really LA because it's not gluten-free, vegan, grass-fed, all natural, but you get it. First thing we're gonna do is preheat our oven to 350 and chop our garlic, mince our garlic, cut up your garlic. And who is Robert Blake? Okay, so Robert Blake was actually born under the name Michael James Gubitosi. He was born in Nutley, New Jersey on September 18th of 1933. His parents had like a song and dance act that they performed locally. And by 1936, the family's 3 children, including later known as Robert, were actually performing under the name the 3 Little Hillbillies. You guys, it was the 30s. We're not going to talk about problematic names. We know it's a problem. I don't really know what to tell you. So the kids are kind of working in the local entertainment industry, and by 1938, the family up and moves to LA. And at one time, Robert Blake's dad thinks that he's going to be the star, but they end up having the kids in just movies as extras, right? Well, it turns out that little baby Robert Blake was actually adorable and extremely talented and a very, very successful childhood actor. We're not really going to get into his career because that's not what this is about. But he did go on to say that he had a pretty not okay childhood. He was very unhappy. His father actually was an alcoholic and extremely abusive. He also said that his parents not only physically abused him, but also sexually abused him. This led to having a lot of problems in school. He ended up getting expelled and ran away when he was like 14 years old. The family had a lot of issues, and Robert's dad actually ended up committing suicide in 1956. Once we've gone ahead and minced our garlic, we're just going to throw it in a container with about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and some Italian seasoning to taste. So Robert Blake's career actually started under the name Mickey Gubitosi, and he was on like the original Little Rascals and was just a very hardworking, very talented child actor. He was drafted in 1950 because everyone was drafted in 1950. And when he came back, he actually suffered from some pretty severe anxiety, depression, alcohol, and drug abuse, which also happened to everyone else in the 50s. So life isn't going so well for Robert after the war, but he does decide to go back to acting, and as we know, had a pretty successful career, but that's not what this is about. He did marry a woman by the name of Chandra Kerr in 1961. That ended in 1983, and they did have 2 children. That is when, in around 1999, he met Bonnie Lee Bakley. I'm gonna go ahead and whisk together my little sauce concoction. Now, Bonnie was born on June 7th of 1956 in Morristown, New Jersey. She had 3 siblings and was actually raised by her grandmother. She dropped out of high school at the age of 16 and ended up moving to New York City with the idea to become a model and actress. Didn't we all? Next step, we're gonna take our sourdough round. We're gonna go ahead and cut the top off of it to make like a little bread lid. From there, we're gonna place the brie on top and just cut out exactly where the brie is gonna fit in there perfectly and scoop out that excess bread. So Bonnie was married like a total of 10 times, and we will get more into that kind of situation later, but it is important that we talk about the fact that Bonnie was actually known as, quote, celebrity obsessed. She said that being around celebrities actually like made her feel like she was above other people, and it was her goal in life, she was very open about it, to actually marry a celebrity. While she was out in LA, she was actually going after like Dean Martin and Frankie Valli, and was just like determined to marry a celebrity. That was gonna be her thing. All right, now that we've got our bread hollowed out, we're just gonna go ahead and brush in that olive oil, garlic, and Italian seasoning mixture, and then go ahead and make slits down the side so it'll be easier to pull apart once it's been baked. So throughout all of this, Bonnie actually gets involved with Christian Brando, who is the, like, as we know, kind of issue, you know, relative of Marlon Brando, which we also won't get into that either. And Bonnie was an interesting one to me. So she, when she moved to Los Angeles and was traveling back and forth, she actually went ahead and bought herself some billboards, right? Kind of like, hey, I want to be famous, cast me. And then from there, she actually had the original OnlyFans, which was this like mail-in thing. She'd put ads in the paper of like, hey, you want my nudes, send me some money and I'll send you some nudes, and would do like mail order nude photos, which honestly is like, get your coin, girl, get your bag. Our mixture is in there. We're just gonna make those little slits so it's easier to pull apart. So while she's involved with Mr. Christian Brando, she also starts dating Robert Blake. They meet outside of a jazz club in '99, and throughout all of this, Bonnie actually gets pregnant. She discloses that she doesn't know who the dad is, but ends up giving birth to the beautiful baby girl, Christian Shannon Brando. She confides in Blake that she doesn't like know who the father of the child is. He ends up seeing a picture of her and is like, that is clearly my daughter. She looks identical to me. And with a paternity test, they do find out that that's true. And the baby's name is changed to Rose Lenore Sophia Blake. All right, I've made these slits all around our piece of bread, which is why we're gonna call it the Bloomin' Brie, because we'll be able to pull these apart with the brie once it's done. From here, we're going to go in with as much mozzarella as your heart desires. Remember to always constipate your guests as the bottom layer. So there's a really weird kind of marriage agreement that's going on with Bonnie and Robert. They're married, but they're not actually together. And there's a lot of like weird abuse things that are happening. She never lives with him. She ends up living in his guest house in Studio City. And there's like stories where she was traveling back and forth to different places. She was getting in trouble for writing bad checks, for like marrying old men. Some of these 10 marriages were actually to like older men that she would then like have them put her in their will or things like that, take money. He ends up taking the daughter at one point. There's a lot of like weird stuff going on, and she has a lot of weird stuff that she's dealing with. I mean, at one point when she was like 16 years old, she married her cousin. Red flags all around on both sides here, guys. And she knew there were a lot of red flags. I mean, at one point, they're talking about custody for the daughter, and she tells her lawyer, like, if anything ever happened to me, like, Robert did it, I'm scared, just so you know. Which is, like, always a thing in these stories. They always know who's gonna get them. I guess when you know, you know. I also love that her little nudes business was called Lonely Hearts. Like, oh, my heart is lonely. Here's me topless. All right, I've got our Brie out of the package, and I peeled off some of that weird casing that comes around it. And we're just gonna go ahead and put it right in that sourdough. All right, once it fits in that little like bread cubby bed, we're gonna go ahead with about the same amount of mozzarella, as much as your heart desires. Sprinkle that right on top. Because the more cheese, the better, guys. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. Once we have our layers of cheese in there packed, we're just gonna go ahead and throw that little bread hat on top, add a little bit more of our olive oil mixture, and then bake it for 20 minutes. So they don't have like a happy marriage. It's kind of weird, but they're kind of fighting for custody of the daughter. They don't really want to be together. He obviously wants his daughter. So he says on May 4th of 2001, hey, let's go out to dinner at Vitello's. Now, Vitello's is this like really awesome, old school, little Italian restaurant in Studio City. It's right on Tahunga. And if you ever come visit LA, go to Vitello's for the pasta and the murder. For legal reasons, this is me telling you, please not to murder anybody in the Vitello's parking lot. All right, guys, this goes right in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. So they go to Vitello's, right? And Robert tells her, hey, I need to take my 9mm with me because of like your past legal trouble, the issues that you've had and the people you've been around, like you're sending your nudes out. I need to take my gun with me, right? So they go to eat, still curious about their entire meal. And they get ready and they go and get in their car, which is just, you know, of course, in the parking lot right around the corner from Vitello's. Now, this is where the timing is very important because they leave Vitello's at 9:24. Now, between 9:24 and 9:40 p.m., Bonnie Lee Bakley is shot in the car. Funny enough, what also happened at 9:24 p.m., Robert goes to get in the car. He goes to open the door and goes, oh my God, hold on. I forgot my gun inside the restaurant, and runs into the restaurant. Both Robert and the gun are nowhere to be found during the crime. Another really important thing to mention is Vitello's is in Studio City in this very cute kind of residential area. There's like a street of like restaurants and little shops and things that have changed over the years, but surrounding it is all residential things. So at about 9:40 p.m., Robert actually runs to a neighbor's house and is banging on the door, right? The neighbor opens the door and is like, oh my God, it's Robert Blake. He's hysterical, like child overacting. My wife, she's been shot. I need to call 911. And he calls 911 from the phone. What's really weird about that is Bonnie was this like wannabe, sexy, obsessed with celebrities, like original kind of socialite, billboards everywhere person who was obsessed with her cell phone, which was sitting right next to her in the car that he could have called on. So he calls the police, and before the police can even get there, the resident of the house, because he ran out right after, calls the police back and is like, hey, something is going on. I don't trust it. Robert Blake just called you guys from my home. I think he hid something in my home. I don't know what's going on. He was acting really shady. Like, you need to check him out as well. So Bonnie has been shot in the car and she's still actually alive. They take her to the hospital where she wasn't presumed dead until way later. But during all of that, they take Robert in for questioning. He has no idea the status of his wife and not one time asks how she is doing. He doesn't ask if she's alive, if she's dead, if she's in surgery, nothing. So police handle this case so thoroughly that there's also a dumpster behind Vitello's, like every other restaurant in the world. And instead of going through that dumpster on site, they actually take the entire dumpster in and search it, do some like forensic testing on it, and they end up finding a rare World War II 9mm pistol. There's only one problem with this pistol. It is absolutely covered in motor oil, which they can tell was intentional. Now, when you cover a gun, for example, in motor oil, it's ruined. There's no fingerprints, there's no way to run ballistics on it. The whole thing is ruined. For legal purposes, please don't do that and blame me. I don't have the time or financial resources to deal with your shit. So they go in, all the evidence is pointing to Robert, right? Well, of course he lawyers up, and it's almost like his lawyer was ready to just run every slander piece they could on Bonnie. They talk about her billboard, her celebrity obsession, her like naked photos that she sends out, her past legal trouble, the kind of like custody issues with the kid, which, by the way, if you have past legal issues, if you have an OnlyFans or a pre-OnlyFans Lonely Hearts account, it does not mean that you deserve to get murdered and there should be any less sympathy for your murder. And if you do think that, I don't like you. This is where it comes out that she was actually married to all those men under a bunch of different names, bunch of different IDs, because she tried to keep her identity anonymous for this business. So of course they arrest Robert Blake, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. He does an interview in jail with Barbara Walters, who was problematic on her own, and we're not even gonna go there. But the whole interview, she's like, "Did you kill your wife?" And he's just like overacting. Like, "No, of course I did." Like, honestly, he's got the most punchable face in this interview. You're not ever gonna wanna watch it. And of course he gets out on a $1 million bail. Bond. Bail bondsman. I haven't been arrested enough to figure that one out. Comment below the difference. The trial begins on December 20th of 2004 at the Van Nuys courthouse. And actually, two different stuntmen come forward and say, "Hey, Robert actually tried to hire us to kill Bonnie on different occasions." Of course, his defense was ready for this, and it gets thrown out almost immediately. They say that one of the stuntmen had a drug problem, he was always high, he was unreliable, which is like, that doesn't mean he didn't ask them to kill her. But of course his defense was a little bit too ready, if you ask me, and everything they brought to the table just kept getting thrown out. It was like they had an answer for every little thing that was going on. They even said that one of the stuntmen was recently hospitalized for, quote, cocaine psychosis. Cocaine psychosis. Oh, you know that cocaine psychosis. It'll always get you. And of course, because life. On March 16th of 2005, Robert Blake was found not guilty of murder and not guilty of soliciting murder, trying to hire people to murder people. He was acquitted because he was famous and had a bunch of money. The worst part, his fans that night celebrated by going to Vitello's. But what will always get ya? On November 18th, 2005, Robert Blake was actually found liable in a civil court case for her like wrongful death. And it's not enough, but it'll do. The problem was her family never got a dime because he was over $3 million in debt at the time. So what does the wonderful state of California do? Dig that hole deeper. In 2010, they actually filed a tax lien on him for over $1 million. They're literally draining him for everything he has. And I love it because if you can't go to jail, take your money. I would highly recommend that you watch his 2012 interview with Piers Morgan on CNN's Piers Morgan Tonight thing. It's phenomenal, and he gets so upset because they're asking about the murder when they knew that was going to be the topic, and he was like, "I don't want you asking me about that." But also maybe don't watch it because, you know, Piers Morgan. Fuck you, Piers Morgan. Robert Blake did remarry in 2017, which is terrifying to me. I don't know if they've been to Vitello's yet on a date, but I mean, if he's ever spotted there, I guess we know what's gonna happen. He does hope for one last major film role before he, you know, dies because he's old, and hopefully that won't happen. Maybe it'll make you feel better because it made me feel better to know that in 2017, he actually said that he had a live-in nurse with him at all times because he suffers from incontinence. That's not an important fact, but it made me feel a little better. Now, it's speculation whether they think he did it or he didn't do it. Obviously, I think he did it, but Robert Blake fans everywhere will tell you that he's innocent. What's wrong with people? Also, I know this story is really short and sweet, but I don't know why I was so inspired by Chris Benoit to do it, so let's just go along with it, guys. Did I just eat the whole center of that sourdough with garlic and butter? No. Alright guys, I know that I originally said 20 to 25 minutes, but it looks like today it took closer to 35 minutes, so just listen to your cheese when it's calling for you. Listen to your cheese. There's nothing else you can do. So now we're gonna pull it out, cut into it, and see this ooey gooey, cheesy heart attack on a platter. Alright guys, and here's our finished product. It might look like it's not too ooey gooey, but if you look closer in here, we've got some nice ooey gooey brie cheese going on. All you have to do is pull apart the Bloomin' sides once it cools, and you've got literally the perfect appetizer. So like, what do you even think about this case? Because I don't know, I love it and hate it, and now I want Vitello's and I don't really know what to do. Be sure to comment below what you think. Did he do it? Did he not do it? Did this week's episode suck? Did I make this wrong? It's always up in the air. You guys, look at this beauty with gooey cheese inside. Wow. Thanks for cooking with me this week and letting me tell you this insanely weird random story. Be sure to comment below future crimes you want me to cover and some recipes you want me to try. Thank you for watching Spooky Sunday Dinners. I am still singing. I still can't afford a theme song. Honestly, they should make a candle out of this.